Hi everybody, I'm Caroline and I'm recording from the Epic Play Studio in KCK. And if you're watching this video, you've probably purchased our palette, our paint palette take-home kit. And in this video, I'll be showing you how to make it. So you can follow along with me. Feel free to stop the video if I'm going too fast and or just watch the whole thing through and then do your project. So you can follow along or just go at your own pace. So this is the paint palette, or at least one version of it. This one is just like a kind of long oval shape, and it's got indentations for paint, and then it's got a longer indentation to hold a paintbrush. The back is flat, and the edges have been pinched up so that water or paint won't run over when you're using it. So ideally, this is a paint palette that's really easy to wash paint off of, or anything else you're using it for. So yeah, let's get started. In your kit, you should have, first of all, this little form, Epic at Home form, and this is just for us to keep track of your project. So make sure that you fill this out and bring it back with your project so we can get back to you and let you know when it's done. Otherwise, you should have a plastic fork, a paintbrush, what's this called? One of these little sticks, wooden popsicle sticks. There we go. And some white underglaze plus any other colors you potentially ask for when you pick this up. So, and then of course, last but not least, a slab of clay. And this should have come on a cardboard piece wrapped in newspaper just as a workspace. Alternatively, you can cover your table with some plastic or a tablecloth or newspaper, just something so that the clay doesn't stick to the table. Yeah, so let's get started. We'll start with the slab of clay. And most of the time I like to start by smoothing it out. So it kind of comes with this canvasy texture. That's because we roll it out on the slab roller, which is this thing right here with the big blue wheel. And so it presses against this canvas and leaves an imprint. So I'm just going to start by using this popsicle stick to smooth out any texture that I don't want. Again, if you want to keep that canvas texture, feel free to just leave it. I'm going to smooth it out. Sometimes this also works well with paper towel if you have any, and you can just dip it in some water and use that to smooth it out. It kind of gets the clay more smooth and malleable. All right, so we've smoothed out the top side of our clay slab, and now it's time to cut it into the shape that we want. So the slab you're getting is probably going to be a bit bigger than mine, so I'm just going to cut one pallet out of mine. That's about all that will fit here. But if you've got a bigger slab, you can cut a couple pallets out, or you can do one large one, whatever you want. So in terms of shape, this is really up to you. You can follow the standard long oval shape that I started with, or you can do something else. Today, I think I'm going to cut this out in the shape of a leaf. So you can follow along with that if you want, or whatever else. So to cut the shape out, you can either use the popsicle stick again or the fork. So the fork is clean for me, so I'm just going to use that, and I'm just going to start tracing the shape. You might want to trace it out before you actually make the cut in case you need to smooth it out and start over again. So I'm just going to trace my shape. I'm doing sort of a teardrop shape for the leaf. Okay. Make this side a little bit longer. So you see, you can just smooth the clay out and redraw your line if you need to. Right, once you're satisfied with the shape that you've got there, you can actually make the cut all the way down and trace the whole thing out. It's okay if the edges are a bit jagged or little bits of clay come up. You'll be able to smooth them out after. So cut all the way around your shape. All right. And then all you need to do is take the extra clay off. And make sure you save this. If you bring it back to Epic, we can actually reuse it. So that would be fantastic if you help us recycle this clay. We'll use it for future classes. And so yes, save this in a little bag, keep it from drying out. Just bring it back with the rest of your project. Anyway, so now we've got the shape here that we've cut out. I have this little thin part as the kind of stem, but I'm just gonna start smoothing the edges so I can get it to exactly the shape that I want. Right now it's still flat, but in a little bit we can start adding some walls or some sections based on what kind of palette we want. So if you're making this palette for a specific project, feel free to make some very specific sections, or you can just do the standard couple of holes for different paint. So I'm gonna start by pinching the edges of my leaf up, and this will just be to catch any water or paint that might be more liquid so that it won't run over the edge. Okay, so I've pinched these up so it's made just a little bit of a wall. I might leave this texture here or I might smooth it out. It's up to you. The fingerprints are kind of cool. Then I'm going to do the same thing for a couple of sections in the middle to separate my paint. And I think I'm going to do this one kind of in the shape of the leaf, like the veins of a leaf, to stay with the theme. But feel free to make boxes, or for this one, I just stuck my thumb into it and made a little indent, made a couple circles. So you can either make walls or make indents, either will work. Okay, so I'm still just pinching the walls up for my sections. Then I'm going to smooth some of that texture out. All of my sections are kind of different sizes, which is good because normally when I paint, I'm having different amounts of paint for each color. So I might have a really big section for the color blue, which I tend to use a lot, and only a little small section if I tend to just have like a little bit of orange that I need to use. So you can see I've pinched the edges up to make sort of leaf shape veins kind of sections, and now I'm just going to smooth them out. I might get a little water on my fingers to help the clay stay smooth and wet, and this will help me smooth those edges down so it looks a bit more cool. You want to make sure that you keep the palette thick enough that you're not going to break through to whatever you're working on, and so that it can go through the kiln without being too thin. You shouldn't have to worry about thickness with a slab. It won't be too thick in this case, but do make sure that you keep it generally even thickness all around, other than the little parts of the wall that are sticking up. All right, I'm gonna pause the recording while I finish this up and then come back and you can keep following along. All right, we're back. I've smoothed out all the sections and I've used a paintbrush, dipped in a little water to smooth them out even more, especially the places that my fingers couldn't get to easily. And after this, I use the paintbrush again to make some texture in the sections. So that's always an option. So this is what it looks like right now, still drying after I kind of use the wet paintbrush on it. But it's mostly smooth. And as soon as those last bits of moisture dry up and it's not like actually there's any water on there, then we can start painting. So you can get out your underglaze. And underglaze is a type of glaze that can go on wet clay before it's been through the kiln. Normally we put things through the kiln 2 times. The first is called a bisque and the second is called just firing it. So after the bisque, it will be all hard and dry, but it won't be shiny. So the firing is what makes the glaze really shine. So most glazes go on after the bisque, but underglazes can go on under the clear glaze. And so you can put them on right now while the clay is still wet. And then we'll put the clear glaze on for you later before we fire it. So make sure your paintbrush is all clean. It's good to have a little paper towel here for that, especially if you're switching between colors. And then you can start glazing it. If you're working with this kind of gray clay, it's actually white clay. So after it's all done, it's going to be white. So it is an option to not glaze it at all and just sculpt it however you want and bring it back to us. But you can also paint it in white or whatever color you've chosen and decorate it if you want a fancier palette. So I am going to paint mine white today. So that is, this is pretty simple. I'm just covering all the surfaces on top and painting everything except the very bottom of the palette. If you paint the bottom of the palette, it might stick to the kiln or explode or something that wouldn't be fun. So make sure you keep the bottom of the palette clear and clean of any paint. So once again, I'll pause the video while I finish this and be back in just a moment. All right, so I finished painting the entire top and sides of my little leaf palette, and it's a pretty thin coat of paint. I want to find a mix between having too much glaze on there and not enough. So not enough and you'll be able to see the clay through, but too much and it might get all clumpy and weird and just fire in a way that you don't want it to be. So sometimes I'll just let this dry and then do another paint of coat or even 3 coats of paint. There we go. Words are hard. So yeah, I might let this dry and do a couple more coats, but you can do whatever you want with this part and continue to decorate it or just leave it how it is. So that's about it for the palette. I hope you've had fun and I hope you go check out all our other kits. But in the meantime, make sure you fill out the Epic at Home form and bring it back with all your stuff. Bring back your leftover clay, bring back all your supplies. We can reuse the extra paint and recycle or reuse everything else. And then as for your clay project, you can bring it back on the same work board and we will put it through the process of bisque and fire in the kiln and let you know within 2 weeks when you can come pick it up. So I hope you have a great day and thanks for following along. See you later.